Wednesday morning to you, and welcome to the Fixed Wing Guide channel with me, Stuart Lomas. I hope I find you well. What is a gorgeous, beautiful, sunny, clear sky day here in Manchester after the monsoon we had the other day, which I don't think can be described as anything other than that. It was absolutely torrential. And it was in spates of about an hour each time, and we had 3 or 4 of those throughout the day, with slightly lighter rain in between, just for a change. Anyway, not around yesterday. It was a busy day yesterday. I was helping my beloved sort herself out because she's going across to the Emerald Isle today to spend a little bit of time with family. So I've got peace and quiet for, possibly a week or so to do what I wish, and possibility of wandering off to an international antiques fair next week, the largest in Europe, which should be a nice day out as long as the weather is pleasant, but we'll see, and more on that to come. What I want to talk about here is something that's kind of been troubling me a little bit. As you know, I'm preparing to buy myself a new watch next month as a present to myself for my 55th birthday. And as you know, one of the watches that I'm considering is the Rolex Explorer 2 Polar. Lovely watch, fell in love with it, absolutely brilliant, so decision made, absolutely. What I'm thinking is, and I'd be interested to know your thoughts on this, because obviously this is going to get thoughts from both sides of the watch world, I guess. As you know, I own and wear on high days and holidays my Rolex GMT Master 1. Now the question is, would I consider buying a Rolex if I didn't already own one? And I say I've been kind of thinking about this over the last few days, and I've kind of come to a partial conclusion, which is no, I wouldn't. And I'll tell you the reason for why. One, because I feel that, and this is nothing against Rolex as a brand, so any of you Rolex boys out there, don't be offended. I love Rolex, I love wearing my Rolex, it's a great brand, so on and so forth. But the reason I wouldn't is because the older I get and the more that you realise that the watch world is so wide and expansive, is that there is so much choice to be had out there. Especially if you're willing to do the sensible thing, maybe, and buy pre-owned, pre-loved, second-hand. And as there, a lot of people are against homage watches, which obviously so many of the homage watches are based around, inescapably, the Rolex Submariner, because it is the most known dive watch in the world. I've been asking myself the question: do I really want to go down the route of buying a brand that people automatically gravitate to? And maybe I'm kind of shying away a little bit from the Explorer 2. I don't know. I still like the watch. But what I would potentially do is look at the money that I have to spend. Go to somebody like, there's an organisation called Goldman's in Manchester who specialise in pre-owned, pre-loved watches. And they sell them at very, very reasonable rates. They only sell, large percentage of what they sell are complete with box and papers and service details, extra links, and people who sell them who've kept the tags and so on and so forth. So you could go down there and have a look and see what sort of treasures that they have available to buy and wear for the cost of a new Subic, for instance. The other option is, of course, you can internet browse by looking at Watchfinder and have a look what's available on eBay and things like that, just to give you a flavour of the kind of diversity of watches that could be out there that maybe up until this point where you had enough cash to buy a prestige watch, you perhaps didn't know were out there. Maybe that, like a lot of us have, until you start becoming, and I use this phrase advisedly, educated. And what I mean by that is that you become more aware of that there are more watch brands than Rolex, Omega, Tag Heuer, and Breitling, for instance. There are more out there than that. Once you become educated in that fact, it kind of opens your eyes to this wonderful world of different types of timepieces that you can have. So what I'm saying here is that buying a Rolex for me would not be now my first stop. Um, Solely because a brand, it doesn't matter whether it's watches or not, just because a brand is well known to you as it is well known to everybody else, shouldn't dictate that that's your first stop where a prestige item, a watch in this case, is concerned. So I would perhaps look around and start asking myself the questions, after watching lots of advisory YouTube channels, for instance, what do I want the watch for? Do I need a dive watch? Do I actually go diving? Is that something that I'm going to use it for? And I know most of us don't dive. I appreciate that. Do I want a watch that will cross over boundaries? And what I mean by that is, can we have a watch that's maybe a sports watch, but also can be used as a dress watch because it is so classy? Would we like, an odd shaped watch? Do we want to go out there and buy a tonneau case or a tank? Something like that, something that's a little bit left field. You certainly don't see lots of people wearing a tonneau case these days. Um, do we automatically have to have a chronograph, for instance? Will some of us just do you want something plain and simple? Is it worth your while looking at some of the minor manufacturers out there who just turn out little pieces of watches, small numbers that you actually don't see a lot of in the marketplace? And yes, okay, that may well cost you a little bit more money, but if you're in no particular rush, like I'm not, if you are able to save, as I am, then maybe you can find something that is that little bit left field, that with a little bit more effort and a little bit more time, a little bit more discipline, rather than just jumping into a brand that not necessarily, not just Rolex, but Omega or Breitling or whatever, you will find something that will make you, as a watch wearer, that little bit different to everybody else. And that obviously raises another question. Is that not what we all want? Or do we all want to be the same? Because, a lot of us, me included, here I am, are guilty of falling into the dive watch trap. We all know, at least own one. Some of us, all our watches are dive watches. Do we ever strap a tank onto our back and go diving? Probably not. These days, because of my injury, I don't go swimming because it hurts. So why do I need a dive watch? Well, I do because men like that kind of thing. We're gadgety, sport orientated kind of people. But if you're not, then maybe going down the route to a Rolex is not the right thing to do. Or take left field in Rolex, move away from the obvious ones, your subbies and your GMTs and your Batmans and stuff like that, and start looking at other things in their range. Maybe buy yourself a nice Daytona, something that will just be that little bit less common in the watch wearing field, as it were. Because I do feel, I am convinced that we all fall for the subby trap. It's where we tend to gravitate to, and that's actually quite sad. So speaking for myself and trying to look at me from kind of the outside, and we all know that's difficult. It's difficult because we are in this shell that we live in, and it's hard to step back from that. I don't think now, because I'm at the stage where I'm going to have the money that I need to buy the watch that I want. So unless kind of the craving for a Rolex is there, I kind of hope that I wouldn't just be following the herd, as it were, to buy a Rolex, because a Rolex is the thing that you buy when you've got the money. I would hopefully want to step back a little bit and say, right, okay, I've saved my money, that's fine, it's in a little pot there. Let me have a look what else is out there. That little bit that could be a bit different, a little bit left field. And maybe if you're not a big watch guy, but you do want a good quality watch, look for something that will cross over those boundaries. You know, an IWC or something like that. Lots of them in their range will cross over that boundary. You know, a dive watch. Greatest respect to everybody who's got dive watches. I have a dive watch is a dive watch is a dive watch, kind of. They're either black or blue. They've all got a bezel. They're all stainless steel, so on and so forth. Whereas something like an IWC, for instance, can, in their range, offer you a very, very classy looking watch, which with short sleeves, shirt, and shorts when you're walking around on the beach can be a sport type watch, but in the evening, when you're dressed up, can also be a dress watch. So maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's about finding just something that not everybody wears. I'm not a great fan of Frank Mueller, for instance. You know, so I'm not saying don't go that far left field. You know, Richard Mille, I'm not a massive fan of his. You know, although most of us can't afford his stuff, but that's the kind of route I'm going in. Look at something which is going to separate you as a prestige watch buyer who is not following the crowd to your nearest Rolex AD to strap a subby on his wrist. And that's kind of what is applying to me right now. I'm going to be in that position relatively shortly where the money I've saved is enough to go out and buy something. And as you know, there's two watches eating away at the moment. Is the Polar, which is one, and the Good Planet Omega, which is the other one. Both I love, both I would love to own, and both I would be very, very satisfied to have on my wrist because they are spectacularly lovely watches for different reasons, but absolutely lovely. But is it time for me to take my own advice here and go a little bit left field? Um, I think it could be. I think it. I think it could be a case of me, instead of jumping in and buying something in September or perhaps early October, um, maybe take a little longer. Maybe buy myself a Christmas present, an early Christmas present, perhaps. So I think I'm now in a place where, if I to answer my own question, if I didn't own a Rolex already, would I buy one? No, not necessarily. And I say the reason for that is I would feel that on a subliminal level, that little edict that people live by, if you've made it or you have enough money, the watch to buy to demonstrate that is a Rolex. And I think at this point I wouldn't be doing that. After watching all your guys' channels and taking advice from all of you, looking at different watch reviews on Hodinkee and Watches TV and things like that, I would be realising that there was more out there than just that brand with the prestige 5 letters on it. And I would be looking elsewhere and fitting that in to the money that I had available to me. And obviously you do then start talking about how much these things are going to cost. And that, of course, is where pre-owned, pre-loved, second-hand comes in. So you start looking at places like Goldman's in Manchester, Watchfinder, Watch.com, or even, as I said in one of my older videos, pawn shops, the better pawn shops. The one in Manchester has been established for years, 100 years, Mays, now have prestige timepieces. So, maybe I would do what would annoy Simon Crane immensely, and go out and buy my Reverso. Maybe, as long as I don't consider it too precious to wear on a day-to-day basis. So, I think to a certain extent I've answered my question honestly for myself. If I didn't own one already, would I buy one? Yes, if I really wanted one. If it was something that I really wanted. But no, if I felt that I was just doing it because I should. And I would get to that point by educating myself that there was more stuff out there. And as long as I was fitting it within my budget that I had saved, I would benefit from all the information and the expertise that I've found on YouTube, and wander around and spend days looking around to see exactly what there is for the kind of money that I had to spend. So let me know. Be an interesting one, this, because obviously I'm going to get the dyed-in-the-wool Rolex boys. Of course I am, and why wouldn't I be? Nowhere in this video have I said that you shouldn't own a Rolex. I own a Rolex. I love wearing a Rolex. It's absolutely fantastic. They're a great watch. I want the other side as well, of course. I want the guys who perhaps, maybe you've done it. Maybe you have done exactly what I'm saying. Maybe you've saved a bunch of money, or you've come into some money, let's say. You say, I know what I'll do. I'll bang that into a watch, a good quality watch, because I'll get my money back should times get hard. Maybe. Let me know what you did. Let me know what track you trod, if it's a different track to everybody else. So, that's it for this one. Would I buy a Rolex if I didn't have one already? Possibly not, is my answer. Nothing against the brand. I'm just aware, with a little bit of know-how and a little bit of cash, there are other things to benefit from. So there you go, that's it. Any comments, queries, questions, suggestions for this kind of nonsense? As always, down below. If you feel strong enough about this one, make one of these. Tell me face to face. If you like this video and found it interesting, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't done already and it's your first time here, check out my other stuff. There's lots about watches, but there's lots of stuff about other stuff. And if you find it interesting, hit the red button and subscribe. It will be great to see you in the list. And as soon as I do, I'll drop you a little welcome note from me to you. So that's it from this one. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to have a little bit of peace and quiet now. I'm having a new front door fitted today. It's supposed to be at 2 o'clock, so we shall wait and see. For now, that's it. I shall speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.